When I asked my wife out on a date, she told me yes. Very first date was awesome. It was a great date. I don't even remember really the name of the restaurant. It's been so many years, but we had a fabulous dinner. We were both living in Los Angeles at the time, and we went to a musical after, which was fabulous. I drove her home, and I walked her to the door to say goodnight, and I said, I would love to do this again. And she said to me, I don't think I can. And she closed the door. What? Hey, we're Saints. I'm Father Chris. Welcome to our crucifixional live stream. For those who are with us regularly, welcome back, beautiful people. For those who may be new or first timers, glad to have you with us. We built the Warrior Saints Academy really to do two things. One is to teach Scripture, Holy Scripture, in clear and understandable ways to understand the Word of God, and then to give you really practical and implementable tools on how you can live your life according to the Word of God. We got all kinds of great stuff. And as we say, the implementation part of it, the practical, how do I live part really is important for us, because if we have the knowledge of what God has required from us, what he's expecting from us, but not how to live it, then it's not always, well, it's always beautiful, the Word of God, but we want to make it practical in our lives. How can we live it? And I think this is what so many of us are hungry for. So by the end of this episode, we're going to be talking about dating today and how to do it. At the end of the episode, I'm going to give you some tools, gentlemen and ladies, on how to date. And we're dating with intention. Really, that's the goal here. It's not just I'm out looking for a hot chick or a handsome fella. I'm looking to date with intention. All right. All of that to be said, we're off to the races. And interestingly enough, I started this whole episode with the story about my wife not wanting to go on a second date. I was going to be a priest, right? That was not an easy thing for someone to want to jump in with, blind, if you will. And my bride had no intention of ever being married to a priest and being a khuri, the wife of a priest. So it was totally foreign for her. And the good part about all of it was that I'll tell you the story. The good part about it was that she did finally agree to go out on a second date. And the way that story kind of unfolded was that, I went home and look, I've cried like 3 times in my life. Literally. Once when I saw E.T., that was terrible. And Rudy, and then when my wife wouldn't go out with me on a third date, I drove home and I cried. And I was like, seriously, why would she not go out with me? I'm devastated, right? My whole life I could see the vision of it. And this beautiful woman she was the rock that was going to be side by side with me all the way through the building of this relationship. And I just said, you know what? I'm not going to allow her to say no. So I called her the next day and I said, look, I understand you don't want to go out because of all these things. I said, but that's your problem. You have to go out with me again. So I pushed and I prodded, and eventually she did agree to go out with me a second time and a third time and so on. And it led to now almost 30 years of marriage. This month will be our 28th anniversary. Wow. It's kind of crazy to say that. And we have had a beautiful life, a happy life, a healthy life. In all facets of it, not without its challenges, beautiful people, not without its struggles, for sure. Life is pain, as the dread pirate Roberts always says.
You mock my pain.
Life is pain, Highness. Anyone who says differently is selling something.
But it's awesome and it's beautiful. And to navigate through those challenges together with one clear mindset is so awesome. This is really why I want to talk about dating with intention, because a lot of people are looking for that other person, that other half of their perfect whole, right? And I think, men get intimidated by it because, a pretty girl, what if she says no, that whole dance? We may, as men, not be prepared. Like, what are we supposed to do as men when we are looking to marry? Well, provision is one of them, and maybe we don't feel like we're prepared to provide, right? Or maybe we've been too lazy on it, haven't given the efforts that we know we should, haven't found the right job, whatever it may be. We may just be, like many of us in our own lives, a total mess, right? And the gals, they may be thinking, well, what if I want to work, right? I want to have a career, but how do I balance that with having children? And can this guy that I'm looking for, can he be someone of equal partner there to help me with all of this, right? The other challenges, bridesmaid, like, will he respect me? Will he take care of me and treat me as a woman I'm supposed to be, and not treat me like a piece of property? Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, I know that's a real concern for many of our young gals. Most of the time, they tend to be smarter than the guys. Will he respect my mind, ask my opinion, or is he going to want me to just cook and clean and be in the kitchen? And for some, that may be the desire. Great, if that is the case. But for most of us, it's not what we're looking for, right? Some of the other challenges that we come across is finding someone with similar values, similar mindset. Now, this is for me most important and really the heart of what I want to talk about today. There's a beautiful verse I'm going to read for you in 1 Corinthians chapter 6. And I'm sorry, 2 Corinthians chapter 6. And it says, chapter 6, 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14. Do not be mismated with unbelievers. For what partnership has righteousness with iniquity? Or what fellowship has light with darkness? Many people who read it hear the word mismated, and they know it as unequally yoked, right? So unequally yoked. There's like programs out there in the Protestant church called equally yoked, right? I think that's a thing. I saw that somewhere. So the Greek word literally means, it comes from two words, yoke, like the way you would yoke oxen, and with other, etero, right, to other. So don't be yoked with other in an unequal fashion, right? And interestingly enough, it's the only place in the entirety of the New Testament that word appears, is in 2 Corinthians 6:14. And so the light that it exposes for us in the idea of dating is really, for me, very clear. You want to find yourself with someone who has a similar set of values, a similar mindset, who understands the world the way that you do. Nobody will be perfectly matched, right? That doesn't exist. No two people are alike 100% of the way. However, we know that if we choose to be with someone who is very, very different than us, it can be good, but will it really be a crucifixional marriage like what we're striving for? And as we're working in Project 78 to reclaim the biblical family, we've got to have someone who has similar values and mindsets. Now, let me explain things here as I continue this rant and this ramble. I do not mean that we have to like the same things, that we have to enjoy the same movies, play the same sports, watch the same TV shows. That can be boring. And really, I mean, some of us do, and it's not boring, but it can be for many people. There's excitement in that difference, in that distinction. For example, my bride and I do not like the same things as far as television and movies and life, music, all those things. I mean, we don't enjoy all the same stuff. Sometimes we submit to watch a show with the other or to listen to music with, the other, but we're different people. And we also, she's very conservative and really careful about everything she says. And you guys know me, I'm wild and reckless and just throwing thoughts and words out there all over the place. And it drives her nuts, right? Like she gets nervous sometimes with the things that I want to say and do. And yet that adds some electricity in our marriage, right? So we don't want to find a mirror image of ourselves. That distinction, that difference is so healthy and fun. What I'm talking about, having the same mindset, is our core values, right? Our core beliefs. A very simple one, just to kind of make my point clear. It's difficult in a marriage for someone who believes in God to be married to someone who does not, right? Now, that's not impossible. By all means, I'm sure there are some out there, marriages that are like that. But when we're dating someone, how much better is it when we both have the same set of Christian values, right? Like I've seen in my ministry, and it's happened a couple of times and really caused a lot of stress for people. I'll tell you a true story. Just popped in my mind. There was a couple who were beautiful people and had great kids, and they wanted to become Orthodox Christians. And they came to the parish where I'm at, and I met with them and I counseled them. And then all of a sudden, the husband said something about the Virgin Mary. He did not have any fondness for her, no affection for her, didn't believe her to be the mother of God and all this kind of stuff. This was his opinion, his belief. And the wife looked at him and said, "What?" And she was floored by it. And I hated it, but it caused him a little stress in the relationship because she didn't know this. And he didn't know that she didn't know, or whatever it may be. And eventually it led them to find another church home, which is better for them. But even if they were able to overcome and heal that, that's a powerful thing that they did not have in common, a powerful mindset that they did not have in common. And so it's worthwhile when you're dating with intention that you have these conversations to understand what it is the other person you are dating believes, right? And I'm not saying you need to believe what I believe. I hope you do. Probably most of our audience does. But you're free in this country, man. You can believe whatever you want. But let me offer this to you. Make sure that it's the same as your spouse, right? Ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you guys have similar beliefs. It causes so much headache if you don't. Now, let me flip that to the positive side. I can see in my own parish that I serve, when families come to church together and they are both men and women of faith, the father and mother, and are raising children of faith, it's awesome. It's a beautiful thing. I see them in the pews and there's a sense of joy, a sense of stability in their eyes. I can see it. The way they live their lives, the healthiness of the children, right? Their health is evident because they are of one mind with their faith, right? This is an important thing that for me, every time I see it, I'm filled with joy. I think it's awesome. So to kind of focus here, because I know I've been disparate all over the place in this little conversation. When you're dating someone, it's not that you're interviewing someone, but in some sense, you're also having an interview and being interviewed. You want to know what the other person thinks. What are their core values, right? If you go on dates just thinking like, I'm going to get laid, this is a good looking woman or a handsome man. Can I say that? Oh, well, I said it. Sorry, forgive me. But if you're going on a date thinking that, that's okay, great, whatever. That's not what we're talking about here today. And that's not really what we're interested in. And I don't think that's what most people ultimately who are men and women of faith wanting to better themselves, I don't think that's what they're interested in. I think when we go on dates, we want to see, is this person someone that I could spend the rest of my life with? Now, I am not saying that on your first date, you are now locked in and going to be married, right? Like it may not work out. You may choose not to. She may choose not to. Right, fine. But that should be ultimately the ultimate end goal, right? Like in other words, otherwise I'm just dating a pretty face or a handsome face, right? And okay, but that's a little trite and secular, worldly, right? It's not really doing the business. If you are going to date someone, have the intention that you are exploring with this person, that it could be someone you spend the rest of your life with. It may turn out not, but at least you're exploring it. That's the ultimate purpose of going on a date. With that in mind, everything kind of focuses and clarifies and shifts a little bit. It becomes a little more laser focused on what I'm looking for, right? What am I asking? What are the answers to the questions that I'm asking that I hope to receive, right? I don't know. Am I being clearer there? I feel like I'm like a ship lost at sea. I'm looking at my team to help guide me. Yeah, is that making good sense for you? Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Great question. So, I don't know if you could hear Erin off camera, but she said, "Where is the point where it becomes a romantic, date as opposed to like just a job interview?" I'm coming to that. No, it's the right question. No, it's good. We'll get. Trust me, we're going to get to that. When I say the job interview metaphor that we're using, like you want to make sure that you don't get blindsided like this other couple I spoke of a few moments ago with key fundamental beliefs that are different, right? So it might be worthwhile to make a checklist. Now, I know that sounds business-minded, but trust me, I'm going to come to it. In the sense of, so here's how, I'll give you mine. Here's what I did. I'm an Orthodox Christian. Before I'm anything else, I'm an Orthodox Christian. I wanted my wife to be an Orthodox Christian, right? That's non-negotiable for me. That cuts, it covers the way I look at the world. And I wanted to be in a home raising a family with someone who had that same overarching view. I am ethnically Lebanese. I wanted someone to be Lebanese as well. Now, that was not a game changer or a deal breaker, right? It was a game changer, but not a deal breaker. The reason is not because I feel like I'm better because of my culture, but I think in a certain way. And so does my bride. By her being Lebanese, it means she was raised similarly in a similar mindset to me. So I didn't have to explain a lot of things to her, nor she to me, right? It does not mean that people who come from different ethnicities can't, have beautiful marriages. Our team does right away. I mean, like it's here. Why I say that is the culture is the image, but it's the mindset that I want us to have together because it makes things a lot easier, right? And I always say, my bride and I, we may be crazy, but it's the same kind of crazy, right? And that is so helpful in the sense of, like, again, silly example. I mean, we're in our rearing, our family time is important, right? Like on Christmas, we go to be with my family. Didn't have to explain it to her. On Thanksgiving, we go to be with her family. She didn't have to explain it to me. It's just what we do. And so because we came from that same kind of a mindset, it eliminated some difficulties that might have presented themselves, right? Now, as I said, like our beautiful Erin, she and her husband are not from the same ethnicity, and they have a beautiful relationship, and it's fabulous, right? They probably don't have to have all those conversations. So I don't want to make it seem like if you're not the same kind, I mean, that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that we have the same mind. And interestingly enough, Erin and her husband, Renji, do have the same mind, right? They think very differently as man and woman, but also in their values very similarly. And that's what I'm ultimately driving at. It's also worthwhile to talk about, what are your dreams, your goals? What do you want to do with yourselves, with your life? What do you see your life looking like? That means financially. That means, are you active in your church or your communities? What about children? How are you going to deal with all that kind of stuff, right? What if someone wants children and the other doesn't? Now what? Right? That can be a very, very important conversation to make sure you got it all squared away from the beginning, right? So having that kind of mental checklist, you've got to be able to check a few boxes. You won't get them all. I didn't get them all, and I have the best bride on the planet. She didn't get very many, but you get my point. There are some that are negotiable and some that are not. But having that in mind is so helpful when you are dating, because now you're starting to see, is this person someone that really I'm going to carry with these values with the rest of my life. Now, getting to sweet Erin's question, it always starts with romance. Don't ever be fooled. It's always that she's beautiful or he's good looking or handsome or whatever other thing that, that drives the heart. I can tell you, when I started to date my own bride, I mean, I was enamored with her. Still to this day, I'm enamored. I look at her and I'm like, holy cow, how did someone that beautiful decide to condescend to marry someone like me? I mean, maybe it was a momentary lapse of judgment. I don't know, but I'll take it. I mean, I was enamored. It's the only word I can use. I mean, struck with her in that I was desperate to be with her at all moments, right? Like, I mean, I didn't ever want to leave her side or her to leave my side. And she made me think differently. Still to this day, she makes me think differently. And like when we touch, we've been married almost 30 years. There's spark, right? Like, it's like, whew. I mean, I'm not kidding or being silly or facetious, but it's one of those things that every time I'm with her, even still to this day, she lights my fire, here and my whole life. We laughed. And it was interesting for me that when we were on that first date that went so well, and even the second date that I had to fight for, it was loose and free and comfortable. And, I don't know what love is. And how do you define it? There's a million ways to define it, but I had fire, right? What is love? Yeah, it made you think. Yeah. So, but what is love? I don't know how you put it into words, but we all know what it is. You can't maybe eloquate it, but it was fire. I mean, I felt fire inside when I'm with her. And, to hold her hand as we would walk, we went, we lived near the beach. We were in college. We'd go to the beach and walk on the beach and just holding hands, hugging one another, arm around her. Those were, I mean, that's love, that passion. And it has to be there. I mean, if it's not, what are you doing? Right? Like, so many of us are come from cultures where, there was no choice in marriage. We were often, in ancient days, assigned someone to marry because it might be, from a good family, or we wanted to make, like thinking medievally, proper alliances for the kingdom, and all that kind of stuff. Luckily, for most of us today, that is no longer a requirement, having an arranged marriage, though some choose to do that. I even know some people who do, and it works very well. And also I know some who it doesn't work very well, right? So the ability that we have to make that decision, that choice on who we marry, it's a beautiful blessing. I think it's a great thing. That doesn't always, as we know, work out either. However, feeling that fire, that passion, that's what, something that drives us towards, choosing someone, hopefully the right someone to be our mate. Now, neurochemically, what's happening there? That's dopamine, baby. When you fall in love with someone, it's dopamine saying, grab this other person of the opposite sex in order to procreate and continue the species. I mean, that's biologically what's happening in here. But as important as that is, what's happening here is probably more important. And what's happening here, that love that we can't define, that I call fire, that love has to be nurtured. It drives us. The romance of it all makes us want to repeat the situation with that person, to be with them, as I said, moment after moment. This drive, this love has to be also guided by that checklist we talked about earlier, because this love tempers. I don't love my bride any less than I did the first time I met her or when I first fell in love with her. But we're older now and we're thinking differently, and we have different needs and we have different objectives and goals in our lives. And so that initial burning passion, it's different, right? It's still there, but it's very different. Why I say that is because we can't allow that initial romance and hope that we're going to cling to that forever and ever. It just doesn't happen, right? And look, I'm not complaining. I have the best marriage on the planet, but I'm also wise enough to recognize it has evolved in great ways, right? So we don't want to cling to that initial romance as though it will be there forever. I hope that it is, right? If it is, it's going to take work. And that work is what I'm talking about, knowing who the other person is and what their values are. How do we do all this? All right, Father Chris, we get it. You've rambled now for nearly past 20 minutes. How do we actually get out there and do this? All right, I'm going to tell you some tips on dating. Now, when we get to Project 78 and put out our full program at the academy at warriorsaints.org, we'll be much more in depth with these practicals. But these are a few that came to my mind. Number one, let's start with the fellas. Let's bring back chivalry, right? Let's bring back chivalry. When you go out on a date with your girl, you better look good. I don't want to hear that you showed up in shorts and t-shirts and flip-flops, right? I mean, I don't care if you're going to McDonald's. Look better than McDonald's, right? Don't dress for the job you have, dress for the job you want. You know that old saying? All right. So dress to be with her as though you're leveling up. Go to pick her up, right? Sometimes you have to meet people, I get it. But on a first date, you better plan to go pick her up. Open the door for her. Open the car door for her. Pull her chair out at the restaurant when you get there, right? It's treating her with respect and with love. It is so essential, this gentility, is this old chivalry school, because it's putting in her mind that you, gentlemen, are looking at her with respect and with reverence and with awe, and that she is possibly one day to be your queen in your kingdom, right? Having that kind of respect is, it goes way farther than you ever will imagine, right? Even to this day, when my wife, so look, I was raised like this, but when my wife is at the table and we're with other people and she gets up to excuse herself to go to the restroom or whatever, I stand up and pull out her chair because that's what you're supposed to do. And when she comes back, I stand up again and push her chair back in for her. And let me tell you, when I do that because I do that for her. But what I've noticed is that people around me are like scratching their heads. They're like, huh, that's kind of cool. What's going on here? People have even asked me, like, why are you always standing up? It gives me an opportunity to explain. But the idea is that I do it because I love her. I respect her. I have, care for her. Now, another thing I wanted to add before we jump over to the ladies. Fellas, pay the bill. Right now, I sound like an old crony, but I don't care. It's the right thing. Provide for her. She's checking you out. She wants to see if you're going to be able to provide for her, right? Pay the bill. Pay all the bills, right? That's it. That's just how it works. Not everyone agrees with me on that. Fine. And even to this day, I mean, when we were dating, my wife took me out on dates. Of course. I'm not saying, that she can never. The idea is I'm saying that you better, you're trying to show her that you can provide, man. That's really what that's all about. And it shows that, you know what? I love you and I will do my best to take care of you. So pay the freaking bill. All right. Okay. Ladies, how you dress also says a lot. Do you respect yourself? I can tell if you do or if you don't by the clothing that you wear, right? We don't need, again, I'm going to sound like an old, crabby old crony, whatever, but like, we don't need to see all of the skin, right? Like, cover up a little bit, not because I'm an old, like, teetotaler type, but because do you not respect yourself enough to be modest? I mean, and let me tell you, gentlemen are really looking for modest ladies. Sorry, now I'm dating myself, but like, you don't even need me to say it. Go look on TV or just walk around in the mall and the streets and you'll see people, especially our young gals, don't dress very, there's a lot of open space, right? And some people are even probably shouldn't have that open space, right? I always say spandex is a privilege, not a right. You know, we don't need to see all that kind of stuff. And that's not an old, you know, cranky old priest who it says to me that you're screaming for something, for attention of some sort. And if you're screaming for it, it says to me that you don't yet respect yourself enough, right? To be exactly who you are. Cover up a little bit. I know I sound old. I can't help it, but do it. And it will go a lot farther than you think. When I notice this, whenever I see a young woman or even an older woman who is, you know, dressed elegantly, classy, I don't know. I like it. You know, it says that that's a woman who values herself, her own mind. She respects herself, her body. She respects herself, right? And if I'm a young man dating someone, I want a woman who respects herself, right? Who has self-respect. So make sure we dress appropriately. And just like the fellas, overdress. I mean, I don't care if you're going to McDonald's, no flip-flops and, you know, jeans that are cut, you know, like jean shorts that are frilly and cut with, you know, whatever. You get what I'm saying. All right, ladies, here's another one. Well, let me say this, ladies and gentlemen. There's an old saying, and I believe that Dale Carnegie said it. To be interesting, you must first be interested. And what that means is some of us tend to want to talk all the time, right? It's just, I think out loud. You're watching me think right now. And so talking and dominating the conversation and worse, making all of the conversation about me, that's not very interesting. To be interesting to other people is a product of someone who is interested in others. And some even have formulaic expressions that for every answer you give, you should ask 2 questions. Now, you can see really what's happening there, whether it's 2 or 3 or 1, it doesn't matter. What's happening is, hey, focus on the other person. So when you go out with someone and you're on a date, don't you want to be learning about them, right? I mean, why do you need to go on a date and spend money on a nice steak dinner just to talk about yourself? You already know yourself, hopefully, and you know what you're thinking. Like, why waste the time? Just stay at home with yourself, right? And talk to yourself. If you're going on a date, let the other speak, but be interested in them. What are they thinking? What is their mind like? What are they reading? Who are their superheroes? What are some failures in their lives? What are some successes? What are they working on? What do they hope to be? And on it goes. Oh, throw this up there, Aaron. On our homepage is 78 dinner questions. Download that thing. Just get it. It's free. Just download it and take those questions with you or in your mind. Be armed with those questions. They're deeper, thoughtful questions. This is what you're all doing, right? This is what the date's all about. It is that romantic love, but it's also about learning the mind of the other person. So download that, use those questions. They're great questions. There's 78 of them. There was one more that I was going to say for the ladies, and in my ramblings, I forgot. So forgive. But the list goes on and on. Ultimately, my point is this. If you date the other person simply for the physical aspect and what you might get out of it, I mean, that happens a lot, right? Many people in the secular world, that's how they think of it. How do I, But what does that lead us to? Not a lot of good things, right? I mean, you can see the divorce rates out there are ridiculous, right? I mean, the broken and struggling and failed marriages that we work with here in I mean, it's just so sad to see it. When someone, however, is crucifixional, both the husband and the wife, those marriages, awesome, right? I can speak for myself, and I can speak for all the people that I see in my community and all of our warrior saints who are, so dear to us because they're telling us that we're doing this and we're living a crucifixional life and it's working out and our marriage is great and it's never been better. And these are the things that make me know that following Jesus Christ, living the way we're supposed to live according to his commandments, his teachings, this is what works. And marriage is, as we'll see, we're going to talk about it next in our next episode, it's about sacrifice. It's not about getting what I want. It's about sacrifice. And when you're going on these dates, go with the mindset to see, is this other person someone who I think will be willing to sacrifice 100% right alongside me as I myself sacrifice 100% for them? Great stuff, Warrior Saints. Love you, beautiful people. We'll be back with our next live stream. As always, keep walking on the way of the Warrior Saint.